Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video about David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. In this video, we covered introduction of the author, introduction of the novel, character analysis, summary and conclusion of the novel. So let's start with the introduction of the author. Dickens was born on February 7, 1812 in Portsmouth, England, to John and Elizabeth Dickens. His father worked as a clerk in the Navy and faced financial difficulties, leading the family into poverty. In 1824, when Dickens was 12, his father was sent to Debtors' prison, and Charles was forced to leave school to work at a factory. This early experience of hardship and injustice influenced much of his writings. Charles Dickens (1812–1870) was a renowned English novelist, journalist, and social commentator. He is considered one of the greatest authors of the Victorian era. Dickens married Catherine Hogarth in 1836, with whom he had ten children. However, their marriage became strained over time and they separated in 1858. Dickens had a strong interest in social reform, often using his novels to shed light on the struggles of the poor and underprivileged in industrial England. Next, we have notable works of Charles Dickens. First novel is Oliver Twist in 1837 to 1839. Second novel is Nicholas Nickleby in 1838 to 1839. Third, we have The Old Curiosity Shop in 1840 to 1841. Fourth novel is Barnaby Rudge in 1841. Fifth, we have Martin Chuzzlewit in 1843 to 1844. Sixth, we have Dombey and Sons in 1846 to 1848. Next, we have David Copperfield in 1849 to 1850. Bleak House 1852 to 1853. Hard Times 1854. Little Dorrit 1855 to 1857. A Tale of Two Cities in 1859. Great Expectation in 1860 to 1861. Our Mutual Friends in 1864 to 1865. Last we have The Mystery of Edwin Drood. This is unfinished novel in 1870. Here we have introduction of the novel David Copperfield. The full title of the novel is The Personal History, Adventure, Experience and Observation of David Copperfield, the younger of Blunderstone Rookery. The Personal History of David Copperfield, a semi-autobiographical novel by Charles Dickens, follows the protagonist's journey from infancy to maturity, exploring themes of childhood, social class, and self-discovery. The story begins with David's birth, his mother's death, and subsequent experience with his stepfather and harsh schooling, and also the novel, one of Dickens' most popular works. David Copperfield is known for its strong autobiographical elements, with Dickens drawing heavily on his own experience to craft the story. Dickens draws heavily on his own experience, particularly his childhood, making the novel highly personal and relatable. The novel is a classic example of Bildungsroman, roman, a story of characters' growth and development from youth to adulthood. The novel is narrated in the first person by the adult David Copperfield, looking back on his life and experiences. The novel explores themes of childhood, innocence, and impact of family and upbringing. the search for identity, and the importance of compassion and empathy. The novel features a memorable cast of characters, including the eccentric Mr. Micawber, the cruel Mr. Marston, and the nurturing Peggotty. David Copperfield is set in early Victorian England, a period of significant social and economic changes, which Dickens captured in his depiction of the novel's setting and characters. David Copperfield is considered one of Dickens' most popular and beloved novels, and it continues to be read and studied today. Dickens uses the story of David Copperfield to critique Victorian society, particularly the harsh reality of poverty, class inequality, and the treatment of children. Copperfield is taught not to abuse the kindness of gentle, generous, good hearted people and never to underestimate the power of kindness and forgiveness to heal broken hearts. Here we have character analysis. David Copperfield, a protagonist and narrator of the novel. David is innocent, trusting, and naive even though he suffers abuse as a child. He is idealistic and impulsive and remains honest and loving. Though David's troubled childhood renders him sympathetic. He is not perfect. He often exhibits attitude towards the lower classes. In some instances, foolhardy decision mark David's good intention. Next character is Agnes Wakefield, David's true love and second wife. The daughter of Mr. Wakefield, the calm and gentle Agnes admires her father and David. She suffers potential through David's other romances, and although she loves David, she is not overcome by jealousy. Agnes always comforts David with kind words or advice when he needs support. Next character is James Tearforth, a condescending, self centered villain from his boyhood. Steerforth possesses a restless energy that he can neither satisfy nor divert. He charms both women and men for the feeling of power it gives him. He also abuses David, although David is too enraptured with him and too grateful for his patronage to notice. Next character is Peggotty, David's nanny and caretaker. Clara Peggotty is gentle and selfless, opening herself and her family to David whenever he is in need. She is faithful to David and his family all her life, never abandon David, his mother, or Miss Betsy in her kind motherness. Peggotty contrasts with the cruel and unloving Miss Marston. Next character here is little Emily, Peggotty's unfaithful niece, who is sweet but also coy and vain. Little Emily's desire to be a lady causes her to disgrace herself by running away from her family. Next we have Uriah Heep, a two-faced cunning villain who puts on a false show of humility and meekness to disguise his evil intentions. Uriah is motivated by his belief that the world owes him something for all the humiliation he suffered as a young man. Ultimately, Uriah's veneer of humanity proves as empty as his morals. Next character here is Betsy Trotwood, David's eccentric, kind-hearted aunt. Although Miss Betsy's intentions are mysterious at the beginning of the novel, her generosity toward David soon becomes clear and she acts as a child's second mother. Next character here we have Mr. Dick, the eccentric older man who lives with Betsy Trotwood. He is extremely devoted to Betsy and she is devoted to him in return. He believes his mission in life is to complete a memorial, but he struggles to do so because he cannot stop writing about King Charles first. Next character we have Dora Spanlow, David's first wife and first real love. Dora is foolish and giddy, more interested in playing with her dog, Jip, than in keeping house with David because David cannot bear to displease Dora. He permits her to retain the pouty habits of a spoiled child. Next, we have Mr. Wickfield, Agnes' widowed father, who is dependent on his daughter. David lives with Mr. Wickfield while he attends school in Canterbury. Mr. Wickfield is a heavy drinker who allows himself to be manipulated by Uriah Heep until Mr. Micawber, with the help of David and Treadle, liberates him. Next character we have Mr. Micawber, an optimistic but unlucky man who is crippled by his precarious finance. Mr. Wickens Micawber first meets David when David is a young boy, but David runs into him several times throughout the narrative until Mr. Micawber and his family eventually emigrated to Australia at the end of the text. Next, we have Mrs. Micawber. Mrs. Micawber's wife, Mr. Micawber's wife and mother to their five children. Though her family doesn't approve of their marriage, Mrs. Emma Micawber stands by her husband despite his flaws, resolving never to leave him regardless of the hardship that they suffer. Next, we have Mr. Peggotty, the kind hearted brother of David's nurse, Clara Peggotty. He is a simple sailor who is profoundly devoted to his family, especially little Emily and to David. He takes in family and Ham, his niece and nephew, after both are orphaned. Next, we have Clara Copperfield, David's mother, the kind, generous, and good hearted. Clara embodied material caring until her death, which occurs early in the novel. David remembers his mother as an angel whose independent spirit was destroyed by Mr. Marston's cruelty. Mr. Marston, David's cruel stepfather, he is strict and abusive, not only toward David but toward David's mother as well. He believes Clara coddles David and makes every effort to correct this, cursing Clara's spirit in the process. Miss Marston, Mr. Marston's sister, who comes to live with her brother and his new wife after they are married. She assists her brother in abusing both David and Clara. She returns to the novel when David is a young man because Mr. Spanlow hires her to look after Dora. Next character we have Mrs. Steerforth. James Steerforth's mother. She is a wealthy, proud woman who adores her son to such a degree that she doesn't see or refuses to see his faults. She has a great disdain for David. Mr. Spanlow, a lawyer who it later transpires is deeply in debt. He is Dora's father and David's employer. He did not want David to marry his daughter, but his sudden death allows David's and Dora's engagement to proceed without issue. At a glance of the novel, full title is The Personal History and Experience of David Copperfield the Younger and Blunderstone Rookery. Author Charles Dickens. Type of work novel. Genre Buildings Roman. Language English. Time and place written in May 1849, November in 1850 England. Date of first publication May 1849 to November 1850. Serial publication. Publisher Brandbury and Evans. Narrator of the novel is an older David Copperfield narrates the story of his childhood from his happy home in London. Point of view. David writes in the first person, limiting his viewpoint to what he sees in his youth and his attitude at that time. Tone. David reflects upon his youth fondly and remembers his naive youth wistfully. Setting in 80s. Setting plays England. Protagonist David Copperfield. Major conflict. David struggled to become a man in a cruel world with little money and few people to guide him. Rising action. David loses his mother and falls victim to a cruel childhood, but then has a happier youth with Miss Betsy and Agnes. Climax. David watches from shore as the storm claims the lives of Ham and Stilford. Falling action. The various subplots involving secondary characters resolve themselves. David realizes his love for Agnes, marries her, and comes to grips with the treachery and death of Stilford. Themes. The plight of the weak, equality in marriage, wealth and class. Motifs. The role of mothers, accented speech, physical beauty. Symbols. The sea flowers, Mr. Dick's kite. Foreshadowing. The opening scene's observation that David's birth is inauspicious. The adult David's remark that little Emily would have been better off if the sea had swallowed her as a child. Agnes' district of Steerforth. Agnes blushed when David asked her about her love life. Here we have summary of the novel. The story is told in the first person by a middle-aged David Copperfield who is looking back on his life. David is born in Blunderstone, Suffolk 6 months after the death of his father, and he is raised by his mother and her devoted housekeeper Clara Peggotty. As a young child, he spends a few days with Peggotty at the home of her brother, Mr. Peggotty, in Yarmouth, which Mr. Peggotty shares with Ham and Emily, his orphaned nephew and niece, respectively. When the visit ends, David learns that his mother has married the cruel and controlling Mr. Edward Marston. That evening, Marston's sister also moves in and assumes the management of the household. One day, Mr. Marston takes David to his bedroom to beat him, and David bites his hand. After that, the 8-year-old David is sent to a boarding school run by the sadistic Mr. Crackle. There, David becomes friend with the kind and steadfast Tommy Treadles and with the charismatic and entitled James Steerforth. Partway through David's second semester at the school, his mother dies shortly after giving birth to a son, who also persists after that. Peggotty is dismissed and she marries Barkis, who drives a wagon. David is not returned to school, and at the age of 10, he is sent to work at a Marston's wine bottling factory in London. He lodges at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Micawber, a generous couple who are constantly facing financial disaster. Eventually, Mr. Micawber is sent to debtor's prison, after which David runs away to Dover to find his great aunt, the self sufficient Miss Betsy Trotwood, and on the advice of her simply minded and good hearted boarder, Mr. Dick, she takes him in. Miss Betsy arranges for David to go a school run by Dr. Strong and to stay with her business manager, Mr. Wickfield, and his daughter Agnes. Working for her for Mr. Wickfield is an off-putting teenage clerk named Uriah Heep. After David completes his schooling, he goes to visit Peggotty. On the way to Yarmouth, David encounters Steerforth and together they visit Peggotty and Mr. Peggotty. Emily's engagement to him is announced, but she appears interested in Steerforth. After agreeing to Miss Betsy's idea that he should become a protector, a type of attorney, David begins an apprenticeship at the London office of Spenlow and Jarkins. He maintains his friendship with Steerforth, though Agnes Wickfield disapproves. He is reacquainted with Uriah Heep, who is about to become Wickfield's partner and who intends to marry Agnes. One day, Spenlow invites David to his home, and David becomes infatuated with Spenlow's childlike daughter Dora. David finds that Treadles is not a boarder with Mr. and Mrs. Micawber. Upon learning that Barkis is not the point of death, he returns to Yarmouth after Barkis' funeral. Emily runs away with Steerforth, and Mr. Peggotty vows to find her. David returns to London and becomes England to Dora. Miss Betsy unexpectedly arrives with the news that she has been financially ruined as a result of Uriah Heep's partnership with Wickfield. To add to his income, David begins working for Dr. Strong as a secretary, and at Threadler's suggestion, he starts reporting on parliamentary debt for newspapers. Later, he also writes fiction. Uriah Heep hires Mr. Micawber as a clerk. Eventually, David marries Dora after she suffers a miscarriage. miscarriage. She never regains her strength and she dies. During his time, Emily returns to London after being abandoned in Naples by Steerforth. One day, Mr. Micawber, in concert with David and Treadlers, who is now a lawyer, confronts Uriah Heep with with details evidence that he has been cheating Wickfield and was responsible for Miss Betsy's losses. Hip is required to return the money. Plans are then made for Mr. and Mrs. Micawber to join Mr. Peggotty and Emily when they immigrate to Australia to make a fresh start. Ahead of the departure, David goes to Yarmouth to deliver a letter from Emily to him. But a dangerous storm arises. Several ships are lost, and one shipwreck occurs close enough to shore that Ham tries to swim out and save the last two survivors. Ham drowns, and when the body of one of the sailors is washed ashore, it proves to be Steerforth. David spends the next 3 years in continental Europe, and when he returns, he marries Agnes. Here we have conclusion of the novel. The conclusion is everything that happens after that plot resolution. After David and Agnes marry, they set up house and Agnes bears David many children. They name one of their children Betsy Trotwood Copperfield. So Miss Betsy finally gets the goddaughter she was expecting when David was born. So friends, thank you for the watching. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe.